Okay, so I'm Shelby Prindeville. I'm the art department head here at Morningside. Thank you guys so much for coming. We have with us Rick Samuelson from Siouxland Sign Pro, Jesse Glade from Antidote 71, and Nicole Wolken from the Sioux City School District. I'd like you guys to just take a moment to really introduce yourselves and share a little bit of what your job entails and how graphic design is involved with that. So Rick, if you'd like to start.
Sure. Again, Rick Samuelson. I work at Siouxland Sign Pro. Been doing sign related things and banners and vehicle wraps for about 10 years. Also have had jobs in paper printing and running printing presses as well. But basically it all started out of an internship that I had while I was at Morningside, and it kind of grew into all this other stuff. So that's pretty much it.
All right, Jesse?
Well, I'm Jesse Glade. I was a Morningside grad in 2015 and then started an internship here my last semester and just kind of never left. I don't know, I loved it. I'm the creative director here now at Antidote 71. So graphic design every day, that's what I do. It's involved in everything that I do. It's branched out a lot into more video and web and a whole bunch of different avenues, but it's at the core of what we do every day. So
okay, and then Nicole.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole. I work for the Sioux City Schools and I'm currently the communications associate. Coming into the role, I didn't really quite know what that would entail, and later on I discovered that I was hired for my graphic design skills, and so I do a lot of the social media graphics that we use, the billboard advertisements that we use, any media ads that we might place on our local news websites and those sorts of things. And I'll actually be moving into a new role starting next week as the marketing and communications coordinator. So I'll still retain a lot of the graphic design skills and responsibilities that I have, but I'll become more of a lead on that. And then we'll actually be taking on a new associate that will also support a lot of the graphic design that we do. But really anything and everything that we have for the district that you see in publication, on your computer, or you hear on the radio, or you see on TV, all comes from our department. So.
Okay, great. So I want to dig in a little bit into what specifically you do at work, what your coworkers do, if everyone's working in the world of graphic design, or if it's more you and then other people have different responsibilities, and also speak about like what software and what types. So if you are working in video and web design as well, like give us a little more information about that. Rick, will again have you start.
Yeah, there's several of us here that do graphic design. I've kind of transitioned more management, I guess. I go out and do site visits and do quoting and things like that. I still get to do graphic design from time to time, but I've kind of don't do it as much as I'd like to anymore. But yeah, there's a few other people here that handle most of the graphic design. But I still do, like I just recently worked on a food trailer design, and we're doing a bunch of vehicle wraps for a lawn care company. And so I worked on the quoting and getting them set up to print and things like that. So I definitely do still need to use the graphic design skills and all that, but it's less designing and more of the management aspect.
And what software and hardware are you using? Like what specific pieces of equipment, what programs are you using to create the pieces?
So we use the Adobe suite, of course, and then there are some more industry specific programs. There's like a vinyl cutting software that we use that works directly with our plotters that cut out the vinyl. And then there's RIP software that works with our big 54-inch printers that help us, do color alteration. And then like on bigger jobs, like we're doing box trucks now, we can print about 4 feet wide. So the program helps us split it up and put overlap and things like that into before we send it to the printer. We use Roland printers and Sioux cutters. For the paper, we still do a lot of paper printing as well, and we use Konica Minolta printers and the Fiery software.
Do you outsource anything to other companies, or you do everything in-house that you're creating?
Yeah, when it just makes sense, money-wise. Sometimes some of those larger wholesalers can basically print it for what we can even buy the paper for. So it's just a lot more advantageous to us to farm that out. But we do quite a bit in-house. Most of the sign stuff we do in-house just because it's so expensive to ship larger things like that. So most of that is printed right here.
Okay, and you said you have a few graphic designers. Can you actually like give us a quantity of people who are working specifically with graphic design as either the majority of their work, or if there's some who are working like half and half or part, like just give us a breakdown?
Yeah, so we have 5 people here, and 2 of them actually, 2 other than me actually have degrees, and then the owner just kind of learned on the fly. I mean, he's been doing it since the 70s. So, I mean, he used to cut and paste film together to make, you know, ads and things. So he just kind of got brought up in that. So, yeah, most of the people here, we do have a production guy. He plays around with like Photoshop and things, but he really doesn't have any design. Didn't go to school for design. So.
Sure. And within the Adobe Creative Suite, what are the softwares you're most using? Is it Photoshop and Illustrator, or do you also use additional?
Yep, Photoshop, Illustrator, and then for the paper stuff, we use InDesign quite a bit too.
Sure. All right. Jesse, if you could also, you know, walk us through like what software you use, how many people are working in graphic design, how many people are working outside of that with your company, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So here at Antidote 71, there's 9 of us now. They're the creative department. It's me, another graphic designer, and then a writer. So really just me and the other designer, who's a Briarcliff grad. We forgive her for that. But so it's just the 2 of us in the creative suite. It's mainly all Adobe stuff, a lot of InDesign, a lot of Adobe XD. I don't know if your students are familiar with that or not, but that's been a huge tool for us. It's great for websites, and I've even started to use it more for social graphics and stuff. It's a lot easier to move objects or images specifically around and kind of resize. So that's been nice. Everybody else there's 3 account people that handle all the clients and do the back and forth and meetings and stuff like that. And then there's 2 digital specialists who handle all of like the Google ads and HubSpot and lead gen, stuff like that. So they're on more of the back end marketing piece, and then the creative department is making the content. So.
Okay, and do you have any equipment, or are you doing everything in the digital realm? Do you like print things? Do you have any of that stuff?
No, we don't print. So we send all that stuff out. But as far as equipment, I just have a 16-inch MacBook Pro. I think that's what our other designer has too. And then we just plug into 34-inch monitors are on our desk. So that's kind of our workstation. We have a nice little 2-screen with our laptop on the side, and then our big monitor, which is pretty nice. So that's kind of our
drawing tablets, or not so much?
If the project calls for it, yeah. If we get some more illustrative stuff, I'll use a tablet, but they're not very frequent. I really like when I get to use it, but it's just not as often as I'd like.
What are the types of projects you're asked to do? Like what's the sort of bulk content of your work?
Oh, it's a lot of web and digital stuff. We still do the traditional print, like brochures and stationery packages, business cards for everybody. All that stuff still exists, but a lot of what we do is there's been a lot more websites. So that's a big part of it. They take up a lot of time too. So those are pretty big projects when they come in. Social graphics for a few clients and ourselves. And then just pretty much anything that comes in. We try to be a full service agency for our clients. So if they have print needs, we like to take care of those. We do some branding, logos and brand development, stuff like that. And yeah, pretty much anything that comes in, we try to take care of. So.
And is your clientele mostly local, regional, or do you actually work on a national or international basis?
Yeah, so we've got our few core clients are here in Sioux City, but the last few years we've really started to branch out. I think especially all the COVID stuff and quarantining has really opened a lot of doors for people that can find work with agencies outside of their cities. So that's not a big a deal as it was before. So we've actually expanded. We've got a client in Boston, a client in Omaha that also has offices in Texas. So we're starting to branch out a little bit more regional and national. So that's exciting.
That is exciting. How do you do that? Are you like getting sort of networked from previous clients, or are you, pushing like marketing and advertising of Antidote 71 out to get those leads?
Yeah, it's a lot of lead gen, and we use HubSpot. So we aren't necessarily marketing to them, but they'll pull people into us that they think would be a good fit. So that's how a few of those, especially the Boston one, was a HubSpot client that got brought in. So that's been a big jump for us too.
Great. Nicole, how about you?
So kind of similar to what everyone else has mentioned, we primarily work in the Adobe suite. Currently, like I had mentioned, our team is 2 people. It's myself, which is the communications associate, and then our director of communications. She has a background in design, but as I mentioned, she really hired me to kind of lead the design that comes from our department because we do everything in-house. About the only thing we're currently outsourcing is a lot of our bigger video campaign projects, but again, there are times where I will still work on video, so I've had to kind of teach myself how to use Premiere Pro all over again because it's a beast to learn. But other than that, we primarily work in Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop. We're actually transitioning our department quite a bit though, and so I'll be moving into a new role next week, and then we'll be hiring for this communication associate position. So while I'll be taking the lead on a lot of the design projects, we really need a lot of support. I think anybody everywhere has had a lot on their plate this last year with COVID, and we need a lot of support for a lot of things in design, and how we communicate with our families and students in Sioux City is really important. And so we work on a lot of projects. Like I had mentioned, billboards is one thing that we do each year for different types of campaigns, media ads, social media is a big thing. We try to do at least 2 posts a day and have that really consistent communication. We use a digital platform called S'mores to push out our internal and external newsletters. And then with that, we have 19 schools, and they need a lot of support with their materials as well. So whether it's digital or print, they come to our department for those things, and I kind of serve as the coordinator for that. I work with a lot of local printers like Record, Absolute. We work with Avery to do our billboards, and so I have to have a really strong working knowledge of how the work we're doing translates to print. So while I don't necessarily use a lot of the software and materials that Rick might use at his company, I have to at least have an understanding of it. And so over the last 2 years that I've been in my role, I've had to learn a lot and network with a lot of people. And it's been really exciting, but I know I still have a lot to learn. And so I would just say for any student out there that's maybe learning Adobe software or understanding how to build graphics, really take that a step further and learn how that translates to print and digital media and that sort of thing too.
Nicole, can I ask a question about when you tour around the Career Academy downtown, there are lots of posters and various kinds of printed things. So you're involved in doing all of those kinds of things?
Yes, we do everything for all 20 schools. Our team is too.
does any of that printing actually happen within the Career Academy, for example? Do they actually have printers and stuff to be able to do some of that?
Yes, thank you. That raises a really good point. So our Career Academy serves as a technical education campus for not only Sioux City students, but we've actually gotten approval from the state in Nebraska and South Dakota. So we serve 9 districts now. And so high school students can come to this campus downtown in Sioux City and take fashion design classes, graphic design, which is a really popular pathway for students. And so they learn those design programs down at the Career Academy, and they have a few printers in there. And so whenever we can work with those classes to give them opportunities to learn how to develop graphics and print for the district, we do that. A lot of times things are really timely though, because we are communications department, a lot of things have to get pushed out really quickly. So if students are looking to do projects like that, we usually have to plan it out in advance. It's not usually any timely communication, but yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay, so I wanted to sort of focus a little bit more on just what is a day in the life of your, career currently look like? What time do you come in? What do you do from the start of the day through the rest of the day? Are you working on multiple projects? Are you focused on one? If you have the ability to actually show us potentially like an origin and creation process by screen sharing, that would be amazing. Or you could just describe it, but just like, take us through maybe a day and possibly a work week. And Rick, again, we'll just go ahead and start with you.
Projects are constantly flowing in and out, so you have to be able to multitask quite well. Usually I have, I don't know, maybe 12 projects going, depending on, in the summer it really picks up. So you just kind of got to work on them as I kind of base it on keeping my production guys busy. So if I need to put something out quick, I pick the quick projects, but no, usually a day is, I could be working on anything from, I sometimes do a grocery ad, I could do a banner, and I could be working on a vehicle wrap all in the same day. It's just whatever projects are coming in. So, but I come in at 9 generally, and if there's nothing going on, I'll leave at 5, but a lot of times I'm here later than that working on it. Sometimes I got to come in on the weekends just to print, just so that we can get the, again, have the production guys ready to go when a vehicle comes in, or hit a deadline. We've been printing out a lot of the COVID forms that you get when you go take a shot or get a shot. So obviously those have to go out pretty quick. So you just kind of have to use time management to the best of your ability to make sure that everybody stays busy and you get the projects out in a decent amount of time.
All right. Jesse, how about you?
Yeah, I think us three are going to be really similar here. There's a ton of variety. Every day is pretty much different. There's, like Rick said, a lot of projects going on at the same time. Throughout I would say an average day, I probably work on at least 3 to 4 different things at various stages. So that could be concepting a website through the morning, taking a little break and doing lunch, and then doing a couple quick things in the afternoon before going back to the website, possibly. It's kind of how I like to work. I like to do bigger, more in-depth stuff in bigger chunks of time so I can focus a little bit more on them, and then get a couple of those easy, quick things out the door that are a little bit less intensive, just to cross a couple things off my task lists and get them done. And then there's a lot of managing too. So there's some meetings, client meetings, internal meetings. We do standing meetings once a week with everybody just to see where everything's at and kind of make sure we're all on the same page. We do a creative one with that too, just the creative department, to see where everybody's at with their work, if they need any help with anything, reviewing other projects from the other designer that we have. We like to work pretty collaboratively, so there's a lot of back and forth there, which is, I think, probably one of the funnest parts of the job. So. And
do you travel, given that you have, clients that are far away, or is it more, especially in the pandemic, is it more sort of a video conference situation?
Yeah, it used to be a lot of in-person meetings. Obviously, that's gone away for the time being, but we have an office down in Omaha. So just, I think, last week, 2 weeks ago, I don't know, time is weird. We took, a few of us went down to Omaha and worked the day down there with the Omaha team. So that was fun. We kind of like to, at least once a month, travel up and down and get with each other as a big team. So that's been fun.
Okay. Niccole, what is your day-to-day like?
With COVID the last year, very crazy. Kind of like the others have mentioned, I probably work on 3 or 4 projects, like specific projects throughout the day, but because I work in communications, I would say the primary responsibility of my job lean towards more communication work, whether it's PR, writing, that sort of thing. And the design piece is more of the support piece. And so I try to work on some design projects of the day. like social media graphics and that sort of thing, I try to just do something really quick. I think every designer can agree with me when you say you want to sit down and you want to do the best that you can possibly do on every project and be the most creative and, you know, create new things every single week, but we don't always have time for that. And that's not something that like our primary audience, which is our parents, probably really takes notice of. So social media graphics and those sorts of things, we do a lot of recurring things. We'll change dates and we'll, you know, kind of switch it up, but it stays pretty much the same. And then those bigger projects, whether it's video or if we're doing like media campaigns or a billboard, like sometimes I'll pop my headphones in and I'll kind of, you know, go work in the Career Academy or go work somewhere else to just have some quiet space to work, because it is really easy in our field of work to get pulled away for whether it's crisis or something that comes up. There's always something that comes up. And so sometimes those bigger projects I'll work on like later in the day or later in the week, like Thursdays and Fridays. We have some more leverage with our time. And sometimes even at night, you know, if there's something I really want to focus on, or if I'm feeling really inspired at a different time of the day, it usually comes at night. Or if I'm laying in bed, I'll write ideas down. Some of those things just come outside of the workday, and that's fairly normal. But sometimes when there's so much going on in the office, it's really difficult to feel creative. And so I kind of prioritize, like, here's what I need to get done in the morning, in the afternoon, and then maybe towards the end of the day when I know it'll be a little quieter, I'll try to sit down and focus, or at night, because at the end of the day, while we do a lot of communication and there's a lot of timely stuff, I still like to try to be creative and come up with new ideas and always, you know, be able to present the district with a new and fresh and creative space for students to learn in. So.
All right, and then you have a number of schools that you're working with, and then it sounds like you outsource a lot of the production. Are you traveling to different sites a lot of the time too, or are you actually mostly in the same office?
Yeah, so this last year has kind of been an exception because, of course, it's been unusual, but typically in an average year, if we need to meet or go over projects, I will drive out to the schools, or if we need to coordinate with the printer to go pick up things, we can do that. But a lot of our local printers work with us on a usual basis. We have a really strong working relationship with them, and they will deliver stuff a lot of the time for us. Or like record printing is one that we work with quite consistently, and they're very familiar with all of our schools. So if I call them and say I'm placing this order for this person at this school, but make sure that it gets delivered directly to them, so that eliminates a lot of you know, us having to drive around and do those sorts of things. But we are out in the schools quite a bit, and that's probably more for media than anything. But like pre-COVID, like we actually built a brand guide for the district, which is something that they had never used before, and kind of honed in on what every school's primary and secondary colors were going to be and how their logos were going to be used, because it was all over the board. It was a very big project. We worked on it for about 6 months. And so once that was launched, we went around to every single school and met with all the administration to go over the new expectations and to share with them what their files were going to look like and how they were to be used and those sorts of things. And so I kind of oversee that piece of it. We like to give a lot of the schools kind of free rein to come up with their own ideas, because if we oversaw everything, we wouldn't have enough time in the day. But I'm kind of that point person of, they'll send it to me and say, does this look okay? And I'll say yes or no, or this needs to be changed. And then kind of coordinate that print process afterward, if that's what they need, or if it's digital, then they can just take the files and use them as they wish. But just a lot of coordination. I'll always assist if needed. If we have people from our schools that contact our department and say, I have this really cool idea, can you help design it? We're always open to that, but when it comes down to it, it's just timing and trying to work that into the day or the week. So.
All right. And then Rick, I actually didn't ask you because you had all the stuff in-house, but I should ask, do you have to travel for various client reasons, or are you mostly based out of your own office?
Well, I go out and I do site visits. So if there needs to be a sign put up, I have to go out and do the measurements and things like that. I've gone to a couple of conferences, but most of it, everything is in town, or well, within 50 miles, I should say. So yeah, site visits are pretty much the only time I really go out. I do help with installations as well. So occasionally I'm hanging off the side of a building too. So
Well, that sounds fun. So how did you guys get to where you are now? What did you major and minor in college? What extracurriculars did you pursue? How did your sort of college track end up leading to your first full-time position? And was that in graphic design, or did you sort of veer off at some point from what you had planned into graphic design? Rick, you can take it away again.
Okay. Yeah, I was involved with a lot in college. I was on KMSC, I was in student government, art club, Acacia fraternity. I kept myself pretty busy. But really what it came down to was I had the internship, and I double majored with advertising and graphic design. And so it gave me a lot of different skills. So when I got into my first job and was able to take on a lot of other tasks beyond graphic design, it really made me more valuable and kind of moved me up the ladder a lot faster. So, I mean, basic, like invoicing and all that kind of stuff that it's not fun, but if it makes you more valuable to the company, it helps you stay around a lot longer and get raises faster. So, but yeah, I started with the internship at AJ Phillips. The economy kind of hit the tank. So then they shared me between AJ Phillips and SignPro. And then SignPro took me full time. And then a few years later, Andy at AJ Phillips talked about retiring, so he wanted me to come back. So once we came back, we kind of started doing some sign stuff here. And then within, maybe 4 years, we bought SignPro. So now we're all one company that I've worked for both, but that's where we're at now. So that's how we combine both printing and signs here.
Great. Jesse, what was your academic path and how did you land your first job and all of that?
So I was a graphic design major and advertising minor, so took a lot of the same classes that your students are and probably will take before they graduate. I did football for 2 years, and then I decided that I really needed to put my head down and focus on my career going forward, and really dove into the graphic design aspect of it, and got a part-time design job while I was a junior, I believe, and then, like I said, my second semester senior year, I interned here when it was still JD Gordon, and I just fell in love with it. I couldn't see myself working anywhere else. And then, like Rick was saying, if you find yourself in that position, make yourself indispensable. Do everything that you can to make them not even picture how they could function as a company without you. Be there as much as you can, tackle projects as many as you can, soak up every little bit that you can, ask a bunch of questions. Everybody always says there's no stupid questions, and it's so true. So I love it when we have interns in and they are just constantly asking things and wanting to learn more, not just about their job, but about what other people are doing too, and learning more about the agency as a whole, not just kind of pigeonholing themselves into, I just want to be a designer. Well, you have to understand other aspects and how that fits into not only what we do, but what our clients are doing too, because that's only a small piece of what they're paying for. So I think that helps a lot. So internships would be my biggest advice, is try to get as many or as good of internships as you can. Probably web experience too. Not saying you have to know how to code a website or anything like that, but I think if you know the basics and understand HTML and some CSS stuff and can make a little tweaks here and there to stuff as they come up, and really understand how to design for it and what stuff is going to work and what isn't, that's a huge plus, and it has been for a long time. That would probably be number 2. And then number 3 would just build your brand a little bit. Make yourself a brand, get your portfolio up and out there. That's super valuable as well. I think when we're taking applications for internships and stuff and people have a website with all of their work on it, that's a huge leg up on the other people. So
Thank you. Nicole, how about you? What did you do in college? How did you get your first position?
Yeah, bear with me. I feel like this may be a long story, but it's something I was actually on campus this morning helping Alex with a video for alumni. So I know this is important to him and I'll speak on it. But when I was a junior in one of my advertising classes, we worked with some clients to build an ad campaign. And one of those clients is a local brewery here in Sioux City. And that was really exciting for me because I got to design a beer label for them for a big launch that they did and a lot of campaign materials that went with that. And that was kind of my first big, like, full project from start to finish to see something really come to life. And then after college, I decided to stay in Sioux City for my full-time gig. And about a year after that, the brewery owner actually reached out to me and asked me if I could continue to do design work for them. And so outside of my full-time gig now, I also do freelance design work for the brewery. And I think in the last year, I've designed 5 or 6 labels for them. And he actually just gave me 10 more. I've got a lot on my plate. But that's just a really cool avenue for me to not only have made that connection in college, but to continue it beyond and still have my full-time gig and still, as everyone has mentioned, kind of dive into your work and be willing to try to learn new skills at your full-time gig, but then still kind of do something on the side that sparks your passion and keeps your design skills fresh, which is really important. You should always be working in those programs if that's something that's important to you, because then you won't lose those skills. And so that was one really big piece of my experience at Morningside that allowed me to continue to do design work after college. And then I also did 4 internships while I was in school. I worked for an agency in England when I studied abroad, a full service branding agency from design to production. They did it all. And so that really opened my eyes to what agency life could be like. And after that experience, I knew I didn't want to work in agency life. And then I also did the Tyson summer internship program, and I was a social media marketing coordinator for the food bank here in Siouxland. And then I was a marketing intern at a local coffee company here in Sioux City. And my very first internship that I did was a marketing internship with a local car dealership here in Sioux City. And so I kind of had a lot of experience from nonprofit to for-profit. And after all of those experiences, I still didn't quite know what my knack was going to be. I didn't know what the right thing was for me. And so I just kept on learning. And right before graduation, the Sioux City schools opened the communications position, and I really didn't know what it would entail, but I decided to go for it. And since then, I've learned a lot more about PR, a lot more about communications than I ever thought I ever would. I never thought it would be for me. And now that I've worked in it, I really enjoy it. Like I mentioned, my boss really wanted to bring me onto the team because she knew that we had a lot of big projects in the works that would require those design skills. Like I said, we did the brand guide. And then over the last year, we've actually been working with a vendor out of Des Moines, and we completely built a new website that just launched about a month ago, like a huge weight off of my shoulders. But like Jesse had mentioned, you really have to understand too, like how your design work works for web. And I only took one web design course in college, but that little bit of HTML and that little bit of CSS that's lingering in the back of my head has been really, really helpful, because I now serve as the webmaster for the entire district, and I support all the schools and all their school sites. We also have 20 of those. So it's just been all over the board. And honestly, I'm just really enjoying the constant learning. Now that I'm moving into a new position, I'll probably be doing more PR than design, but kind of moving into that like leadership role of overseeing how those things work. And it's really exciting to just continue the learning process and to always be willing to try new things. I've always kind of strived to have that mindset when it's come to my work, and especially how challenging this last year has been. I think everybody should start their career out that way, because while they may not start exactly where they want to be, the experiences will lead you to where you need to be. And I think that that's really important to remember early on.
Great. So Jesse and Nicole kind of touched on this, But what advice do you have for our students in terms of things that you think they should be making sure that they have skills in, classes they should take, extracurriculars that they should participate in, exhibitions, publications? Like what are you pleased you did in undergrad? What do you wish that you did more of? What advice could you give some of our students, from looking back now? And Rick, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I am glad that I did web, kind of echo that. I mean, when I did it, it was very long ago and it was very different. It was just cutting apart a Photoshop image and putting it in. But I kept up with it and learned CSS and HTML enough to build our website. But if I was in college now, I'd definitely make sure that I knew some of that back end stuff. It just, knowing how it works just makes you design better for that kind of a thing. One of the classes I wish now that I would have taken, I would have never dreamed of taking it while I was in college, but I wish I had some basic accounting skills. So, I mean, if you're even considering going freelance or something like that, to have a little bit of background in that realm, I mean, it's a completely different section of their brain, I think, that you have to know. So knowing some of that, I wish I had a little bit of that skill now. And then I don't know, those are kind of the big ones for me. I'm glad I was in ad club. I took it a couple years in a row, learned a lot both times, but those would be the ones that I would think were really important.
Okay. And Jesse, you did already touch on it a little bit. Did you have anything you wanted to add there?
I would echo again Rick's point of the business classes and stuff. That's a great point. As valuable as the design classes are in teaching you all the skills and fundamentals, knowing some of that background and like the advertising minor and stuff on the broader scope of marketing, I think is really helpful. That just kind of piggybacks on everything. So that'd be a good one. Just get used to being busy, I guess. Not saying that there's too few or too many things that you can do, but in the real world, you're going to be juggling so many things at the same time in your job and life. So it's good to get used to that while you can and have some kind of structure to that. So.
All right. And Nicole, any additional thoughts? I know you also already shared some.
Dave will appreciate this one, but my biggest piece of advice, if there's anything I've learned in the last 2 years, is take writing classes. Practice writing. Always email your professors as professionally as possible. Start with hello, give your body copy, always sign thank you, do those things and do them well, and start that process early on, because in the industry that we work in our department specifically, that is so important for communicators. And even if it's not something that you work in your full-time gig, or you are only a designer, knowing how to write and knowing how to write well is so important. It's not something I've ever been really good at, and it's something that I've constantly expanded on as I've been in my full-time role. But I wish I would have been more of it in college. I wish I would have, pushed myself to be more creative and think more creatively in that realm, because I think that would have translated into my visual work really well. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, is just really learn how to write well, practice it every day, and communicate with anybody and everybody as professionally as possible. Now, obviously, like if you're just being, friendly, or you're just stopping by to talk to someone on campus, that's a different story. But I do think that will take you very far in life. So.
That's a quiet applause.
I had one question that I just wanted to ask, and it's actually because I know and am very familiar with Rick and some of the work he's done too. But Rick, talk to me a little bit. I think it's interesting how your career and job, and even like the type of work that you've done, has really evolved. Going from, like you'd mentioned, the grocery ad and some of that, to now you're doing a lot more wraps. I think that's important for students to know and think about the evolution of maybe even the mediums you work in. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I started interning here, all AJ Phillips did was paper printing and things like that. Every week they did an 8-page grocery ad, which I worked on. And then we would set up, larger books and flyers and brochures. And I learned that fairly well. Had to learn all the different weights of paper and the finishes and all that kind of a thing. But then, like I said, when they split me and I went to Sign Pro, I had to learn a whole different medium. I mean, yes, it is still printing, but it's printing on a whole different scale. It's larger format, it's different resolution, it's longevity of the print. Whereas paper, it's going to be there, for a long time. Whereas a sign, you have to know what type of material to use so it lasts the longest. I mean, outdoor signs are 5 to 10 years at most. So really digging into the technical side of it and learning all that, and then learning to design for that as well. Paper's flat, vehicle wraps are 3-dimensional, so you have to learn how your design works on all 4 sides of the vehicle. You just have to be able to adapt. I mean, it is going to continue to, new stuff comes out all the time. Like I said, when I started doing web, it was cutting things apart, and now it's straight coding. So you have to be able to stay up on all the current trends, materials, and be able to adapt to the newest thing coming out, because that's the only way in your business and in your career you're really going to survive. Because if you can't adapt to the new things, you're not going to be worth it to your employer to stick around, basically.
Yeah. And that, Alex, your question is a perfect segue, because we were about to start our Q&A part of this panel. So everyone is welcome to either sort of in sequence ask the question live, or you're welcome to direct message me or ask it to everyone in the chat. I have already received 2 questions in the chat direct to me, so I'll still kick the Q&A off, I guess. The first question I received is, maybe each of you could give an idea of some of your clients. So Rick, if you would list some of your clients, and we'll just go down the line.
Do a lot of stuff for the Musketeers, City of Sioux City. We've done the bus wraps on those. Greenberg's Jewelers. We do stuff for Empirical, Meat Packer type stuff. We do things for, I mean, it's really all over the place. Both did things for Mercy Hospital and St. Luke's Hospital. If you've seen those huge banners hanging off the side of St. Luke's, me and one other guy were the ones that hung all those. So that was interesting. But yeah, no, we deal with all the kinds of different industries all around town. Tyson Event Center, we did all the COVID signage for there. So basically every industry eventually needs a banner or a sign. So we help them out.
Great. Jesse, how about you? Could you list some of your clients?
Yeah, you bet. So we have a few here in town that we've been working with for a while. CMBA Architects is one of our biggest ones. We just launched their website a few months ago, I believe. We have another big trucking insurance company that's in South Sioux. They're a really good client of ours. We've done some work for the Sioux City Symphony as our nonprofit, and that stuff's been really fun. We just launched their website not too long ago too. I think it was over the winter, I believe. Let's see some other ones. We just got a medical marijuana dispensary that is based in New York, but they've got states now, quite a few all over the place, Florida, Arizona, as they're popping up and acquiring places. So that's been a new space that's kind of fun and interesting for us. Our main verticals are financial, manufacturing, construction, and medical. So we kind of filter in between those kind of 4 verticals, and that's where we kind of focus our clients on.
Okay, great. And then Nicole, I mean, obviously you're working for the school district. Do you have any other clients, I suppose?
Keeping our parents happy. That's, our parents and our community members are the biggest audiences that we are trying to reach. That's who we communicate with most days, and that's who we're trying to market to. So,
okay. The second question so far that has been sent to me is, would you all consider having interns, or do you currently have interns? So Rick?
Yeah, we have interns quite frequently, especially in the summer. So we will be looking for an intern, I'm sure, this summer. You'll do design, but at the same time, you will have to do a little bit of production work. But again, I think that that helps you design better when you learn how things go together. So if you're interested in that, yeah, send me some of your work.
Will the interns get to hang off the wall like you get to when you're putting up signs?
You know, for insurance reasons, probably not. We'll keep them on the ground.
All right, and Jesse, I believe you actually mentioned already that you do have interns.
We have in the past. We recently just hired our second designer, so that's probably going to go away for at least this semester. But that stuff always pops back up, and we post it on our website and on the socials and stuff too. So yeah, we definitely have, and we love having interns, and hopefully they learn a lot. So it's always a good time for everybody when we do. But
All right, Nicole, how about you?
So pre-COVID, we did have one intern, but as I mentioned, our team is expanding because we really need more people on our team. And so we're actually hiring our communication associate position, which would support a lot of that design work. So if you or anyone that you know is looking for a full-time job here in Sioux City, contact the district because we're hiring. So
Great. I just received another question. What are your long-term plans? So Rick.
Well, as I said, Andy brought me back because he's looking to retire. So eventually I will be buying out the company. So I will be here long-term. So that is my long-term goal.
All right, Jesse.
yeah, same thing. I love it here. I love the Sioux City area and Iowa in particular. So just building up the company and seeing what that has in store for us and everybody here and our team. We're growing, so that's exciting. But yeah, I see myself sticking around here and hopefully never having to leave or get another job.
Okay, and Nicole, you mentioned you're already transitioning. What are your long-term plans?
well, I never wanted to stay in Sioux City, and now it's kind of grabbed me in a little bit. But I plan to take this promotion that I'll be receiving and kind of run with it, see what skills I learn, and see if there's any other aspects of the job that really interest me more. I guess up until this point, I've really enjoyed a lot of the branding work that we do and kind of overseeing and coordinating that with our schools. So I've always thought about maybe moving into more of a brand specific role, but kind of working my way into that more middle level position and not so much an entry level position, see where that takes me, and then hopefully move up from there. I guess if there's anything my boss has taught me over the last few months, it's that you really have to ask yourself how much responsibility you want and what you want to oversee and how many hours you want to work and that sort of thing. And as I've kind of moved along in my career, that's just one thing that I keep in the forefront of my mind. And so I don't know if I'll ever want to move into more of like a director role or management role, but we'll see. I don't know yet.
All right, so those currently are all the questions I've received in the chat. Do people have questions they want to ask themselves or continue to send in the chat?
I'm going to ask Jesse the question I just put in the chat for him, but I'm impressed, and I think students should pay attention to things like this. Jesse's actually sitting in front of an actual window. And a lot of times, if you're sitting in front of an actual window, the light from the window overwhelms the video. But notice that his isn't. And so I wondered, does he have some kind of a filter or screen on that window?
Nope. It helps that it's nice and overcast today. If it was sunny, I wouldn't be able to sit here because it would be way too bright and blown out. So it worked out in my favor today.
Funny that you say that because I was actually positioned in front of the window and I moved before I logged on. So just things that designers think about, I guess.
Yep.
What other questions do we have?
If we're waiting for a few questions to come in, I just wanted to kind of echo what Rick said as far as like understanding how production works, understanding the types of printing that you're doing, the types of paper that you're using. I know that that's something we've kind of moved away from. Speaking from someone who still had a lot of classes with John Colbo, who was a previous graphic design professor at Morningside, that was something that he really, really pushed for us, was to really learn those things and understand how it translates to digital, and still learn the digital platform, still learn the Adobe suite, but really understand the production side of things, because while we do so much digitally now, print is still very prevalent in a lot of the industries that we work in. And I think it's really important for students to understand that from the get-go.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that too. As much as people are on their screens and stuff, actually even more because of it, I think when they get something tangible in their hand, like a business card or a booklet or something, it's an even bigger impact now, I think, than it ever has been, because it is something that you can physically hold on to and feel it. That was a big thing with John Colbo too, was how the paper feels and the texture. There's so many different effects and weights and stuff that goes along with that that just really make it a personal touch, really. So yeah, definitely important.
I did receive another question in my chat. It asks, what was your most difficult designing job, Rick?
Oh,
Yeah, you poor thing. I just put you on the spot every time, and the other two well, you have to impromptu answer.
I mean, the toughest ones for me are the ones that I don't get excited about, which sounds really bad, but you're going to get those jobs that you're just not excited about sometimes, and you have to do them anyway. I do a lot of vehicle stuff, and when they're doing something to their vehicle, and I'm like, oh man, I would not do that to mine. You still have to make it look good, and you still have to kind of reflect their excitement too, because they're spending a lot of money to make this happen. So it's getting excited about things that just aren't your thing. Like I am not a fire and skulls kind of guy at all, and that's a lot of the racer guys and stuff. That's what they want on their vehicles. So you just kind of have to bite your tongue and make it look as good as you possibly can. So those are the tough ones for me.
Jesse, how about you? What was your most difficult designing job?
I don't know if I wouldn't say difficult, but the most work intensive, and Alex and Dave, you'll probably remember this, is the Morningside book. It's 200 pages, all laid out with text and pictures, and it took us almost 2 years to complete. So there was, I don't know how many times I've read that thing front to back and looked at all of the images, and even the ones that we didn't use. There's so many files and things in there. I think the XD document has, well over 250 links or so. So it was a behemoth, but it's also probably one of my funnest projects.
And can you hold that up real quick again? It was the book for the 125th anniversary, is that correct?
Yep.
I was going to say, we greatly appreciate that effort, no doubt.
Yeah, like I said, it was a lot of work, but probably the one I'm the most proud of. So.
All right, Nicole, how about you? What was your most difficult designing job?
Well, first off, that reminds me of a kiosk, which brings back so many memories. But geez, I don't know. I've done a lot of projects, and so I'm having a hard time thinking about like one specific big project. But most recently, I designed some media ads for KCAU, I think. One of the two, I can't remember. And the first round of them back in like November, December just did not run well. The analytics on them were really poor. And so we worked with the account executive, and he offered some suggestions about ways we could modify the design to make them more appealing to viewers. And ironically enough, I actually took a lot of design classes with him at Morningside, so we could kind of piggyback off of each other's ideas because we had collaborated before. But he was really helpful in like giving me suggestions to modify the design so that they would perform better the second go around. And so that was the challenge for me, because we see ads online all the time, and I think it was difficult for me to take a step back and say, like, I see these all the time, but how do I make the district, ads appeal the same way that those do to us? And it's different too because our audience is so specific to just parents and community members that would be interested in what the school district is doing. So that was most recently, that was a challenge for me to try to get our ads to perform better solely through how they were designed.
You know, I really liked it. All three of the folks, especially Nicole, you mentioned the idea of being able to say, I need to know some more stuff about advertising and I need to know stuff about marketing. I think Jesse mentioned those things too. I need to know things about advertising and web design. And it's not just graphic design because you're going to need to know all that stuff. All of a sudden, you're going to design something that's going to run on a television station or on a TV station's website. So I think those are some of the best things that I think students can take away is you really you can't just say, I just want to be a graphic designer.
It doesn't work that way.
So we're getting close to the sort of announced end time. Was there anything that we didn't ask that you were dying to speak on? Oh, we covered it all.
Just kind of a general thought about when you're out there looking for jobs and stuff is you come to a closer and closer to graduation is figure out what you want out of a job. You know, do you just want to go to work and do your stuff and go home and get paid, or do you want to go to work every day and get excited about what you're doing? I think that's a huge thing. Everybody strives for that, obviously, but I think if you actively pursue that, and it makes your job a lot easier, even on the tough days, because not every day is fun or easy. Like Rick said, we get projects that we don't necessarily enjoy doing and some stuff that's just routine, but when you really enjoy what you're doing and you like the people that you work with and everything, that completely changes your whole outlook on a job, and it's not really a job anymore.
Thank you for that. Well, if we don't have anything else, I just want to say, yeah, on behalf of all of us, and I saw that we've got some thanks in the chat as well, but thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise with us today. These sessions are always invaluable to our community to, you know, learn really what it's like, you know, today and in those types of positions. And we just really appreciate your service and committing to this panel. And Alex, thank you for setting this up. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.